Welcome back to Canadian Justice, where we are discussing CRTC looking into whether or not they are going to ban Fox News from Canadian airwaves. Now, the first part of that process, Peter, was a public comment phase. That phase has now closed. What do we know about the tone of the comments that the CRTC received?
Well, I haven't read all of them. Hundreds, thousands, and thousands of them, for that matter. And typically, what happens is each side will sort of rally its troops to make their comments and that sort of stuff. For last time I looked, they were running about 70% to 30% in favor of banning Fox News. So the EGALS community, the LGBTQ plus communities had banded together and sent them in, and some of them were very similar. That tends to happen in these things. At the end of the day, that's an opportunity for the public to participate and express its point of view. But the CRTC, it's not a vote, right?
Mm-hmm.
Will make its decision based on the best arguments presented before it, not necessarily the most arguments presented one way or the other.
Yeah, I mean, from my perspective as a anti-censorship type person, is the vote that you get and whether or not you want Fox News is whether or not you subscribe to it as a part of your cable package. Now, I want to turn to part of this conversation we have been having around Fox and the Chinese government controlled media, which is still broadcasting in Canada, and Russia Today, and some of the policy arguments around that. So what would be the rationale for banning Fox but keeping Chinese government controlled media, which has some content that I would say is can be objectionable for a lot of Canadians, including perhaps in particular people who have concerns about Hong Kong or the Uyghur community in Northeast China?
No, there would be no rationale to a decision, a decision like that. In my view, I mean, it would just be a decision because we don't like Fox News and we're afraid of China. That would be the that would be the only rationale that you can throw into something like that. Like I said, Peter Dahlin was, he had a forced confession. He was arrested. He's a human rights activist
Mm-hmm.
from Sweden, and he complained to the CRTC 3.5 years ago about having his forced confession televised. And apparently they televise a number of these. But I guess the CRT, I'm just guessing, speculating, the CRT's view has been much what you described about Fox News. If you don't want it, don't subscribe to it, right? I mean, it's not like these things are forced upon people. You go downstairs and you find the kids watching Chinese state television. Oh my God, dear, they're watching Chinese state television again, or good heavens, they're watching Fox. You have to make a choice to pick up on them. But in terms of rationale, it would be no. We just this is the LGBT community, and we're going to protect and make that a priority over months of torture and forced confessions. On the other hand, you kind of go, meh.
Now, Igal says this is not about censorship. I imagine RT would be arguing that the decision to eliminate RT from Canadian airwaves through the CRTC as opposed to through a sanction would be about censorship. And I'm sure there are people who have made that argument. So they have said this is about preventing the incitement of hatred. So how do you respond to concerns that this is or isn't censorship, whether we're banning RT, Chinese state media, or Fox?
Well, a phrase like preventing the incitement of hatred can be applied to just about anything with great, respect to EGAL. They're very passionate about their cause. They're also government funded in terms of that sort of stuff. But there's no getting around it that it's censorship. Now, that's kind of what the CRTC does. People don't realize it that much, and it's fairly soft, and a lot of it's self-censoring. So you can make an argument that it's justifiable censorship if you want to make that argument. But I don't think there's any real logical foundation for making an argument that it is not censorship. It is censorship. Just the fact that the CRTC decides what foreign services can be broadcast and what don't implies the sort of censorship. So let's not pretend it's not. If you want to have a discussion about whether it's justifiable or not, that's another discussion.
Yeah, absolutely. And as we talked about in the first segment, these are very different outlets, right? Government controlled versus non-government controlled news outlets. Now we've got to go to commercial break, but when we come back, I want to talk about what recourse may exist if CRTC ultimately does decide they want Fox News gone. We will be right back.